Hello, welcome to Go Independent Together, our special Google Hangout event with Jordana and Cassius Wright. My name is Glory, and I'm the online community manager here at Freelancers Union. Today, we're thrilled to have two expert freelancers with us. Cassius and Jordana Wright are unique individuals, and together their expertise is unstoppable. The husband and wife photography team combined their backgrounds in art, theater, and business and created Jordana Wright Photography, a full-service portrait and event photography company. For the dynamic couple, maintaining a healthy and collaborative partnership is a huge part of their success. Thank you guys for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
So we're going to hop right into it. Can you tell us a little bit about your company?
So basically, Jordana Wright Photography is an all-inclusive photographic experience. We focus a lot recently in food, restaurants, resorts, hotels, kind of the more commercial end of my favorite stuff to do. So I love food photography because you get to eat it, which is way better than pretty much anything else. So we also do a lot of weddings, headshots for actors, kind of a little bit of everything because I like to keep my options open and experience as many different kinds of things as I can.
I think that to add to that, I'd say that we're, somewhat of a global traveling company. We try as much as we can to get out of the city of Chicago and out of the United States, and we like to try to explore new places and new cultures and document some of that. So that works very well with a lot of the chefs and the resorts that we work with because they're spread far across the globe. So it gives us an opportunity to get out and about and practice our craft.
Awesome. So how did you guys begin working for yourselves?
Well, I have the least useful college education degree ever, which is theater. Basically, you get this amazing theater degree, you learn so much, you have so much fun, and then you get out into the world and you're not qualified to do anything. So I was looking for theater jobs, and I'd always done photography as a hobby. And so I'm like trying and searching and applying for all these internships which don't pay. And meanwhile, I'm doing headshots for all of my actor friends and actually making money that way. And eventually I realized, why would I try to do anything else? This is something I enjoy. I'm already succeeding at it, and I can do it on my own. So it was kind of a no-brainer.
What about you, Cassius?
You know, my background is also in the useless realm of theater in college ed. However, I came from the technical side of production, so I actually was able to sort of parlay my theater experience into other jobs in sort of technical and production-minded industries. So whereas Mrs. Wright was sort of pushed one direction to get away from the theater degree, I sort of used mine to get into concert production, into festival planning, and that led me into working with a lot of different types of businesses and vendors within those industries. So it became a circumstance where I had a lot better luck finding my own work, and I had a lot more versatility and flexibility with my own schedule and doing kind of what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. Mm-hmm. So I chose to pursue freelance rather than some kind of sit-down job, for lack of better words.
So were you guys both freelancers when you met?
I was still a student in school, and then he was freelancing, doing theater stuff, and came to work on a show that I was doing through my college. So then we met that way.
Yeah, I'd freelanced in theater for a few years, traveling around the United States doing lighting design for concerts and for musicals and things of that nature. And I was the assistant lighting designer, and she was the assistant director, and the rest, as they say, is history.
So, what were your who were your first few clients?
Well, originally it did start out with a lot of theater-based stuff. I did production photographs for a lot of different shows at my school, headshots for a lot of my friends, things like that. And then gradually we just kept making these connections with people who I would mention that I do photography, and it just so happened they needed it, so it just kind of snowballed into us actually making ends meet that way.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, starting a business with your spouse, that means obviously that comes with a lot of risk. What are the secrets for making it work for you guys?
Well, it's kind of the same thing as the secrets that make the marriage work. It really helps if you like each other. I think that there are a lot of people who, for better or for worse, they have a high school or a college sweetheart, and then I think the natural progression is that you get married and you go on about your life. And I think that it's really important that you do your due diligence and make sure that this is, the relationship that you want to have. And if you're married to the right person, the business is something that it's sort of ancillary. I don't want to make it sound as though it's not a major focus of our everyday lives, because obviously it is. But to be honest, it feels like just kind of another portion of our marriage. It's like we divide up our duties around the house, and sometimes, as much as I hate it, it's my turn to do the dishes, and sometimes, as much as I hate it, it's my turn to archive 2,500 photographs and make sure they're all in the right folders, and I don't want to do that either. But part of being the supportive business person, part of being the supportive husband, is to take on those tasks. It's interesting, really, how similar the two things are.
And it really got started because I enjoy my time behind the camera and I enjoy my time at the computer, but I don't so much enjoy telling people that I'm awesome and that they should hire me. So it was much easier for him to tell people that. So then he sort of fell into this business manager role. And it's really good just because we have so much respect for each other's strengths, and we can kind of take a step back and say, okay, well, it's not my idea, but it's a really good idea, so I'm going to let you run with it and support you in it.
Well, that sounds amazing. What do you think the most rewarding thing about being a freelancer with your spouse is?
We get to go on vacation together and go see amazing places for work, and then everybody else that we know becomes extremely jealous. That's probably it.
Yeah, I mean, really, when you consider the ideal situation, when you're going to be with somebody and you're going to marry them and you want to spend all your time and the rest of your life with them, and then it's sort of a kick in the butt that you go spend 8, 10, 12, 15, 18 hours a day doing something else, and that's with one person having a hectic job. When two people have a hectic job, then your time apart can be long-distance travel and all of these other things. And for us, we get to take part in everybody doing that. So if Jordana gets to go someplace, by and large, I get to tag along and come help, and vice versa. So even if it costs us a plane ticket sometimes, the opportunity to spend time with who you were trying to spend time with is really a major bonus, because you kind of get to go do that and get paid for it, which is super cool.
I would agree. Well, how important was your network in the beginning of your success when you were building your freelance business?
It was very important. This guy can have a conversation with absolutely anybody, and they walk away from it thinking that he's fantastic. So that really helped for me. I wouldn't say that I'm shy, but he's the more vocal one of the two of us. At least that's how it started out. So between his thriving theater career, the fact that he's just a super social person, there were all these people that I got to suddenly include into my network as soon as we got together. And then, they met me and they were like, oh, she does photography? Oh, it's pretty good? Okay, so he's not just BSing, and it turned into this whole thing.
It is far easier to promote the work because it is excellent work. It'd be a completely different sport if I was having to give it the, I don't know why people don't want it, honey. I don't have that problem. I have a product that I know I can sell, and I'm fortunate in that I have the proximity to the artist that I do, because that lets me have a much greater depth of understanding of that product that I'm trying to sell. And as Jordana says, I can have a conversation with basically anyone. So I have a conversation with them about this quality product that I have, and if they're interested, then we take it from there. It's really been a natural extension.
You sound very persuasive.
It really is. Amazing.
Are there any secrets to getting return clients?
Keep them happy. At all costs, keep them happy. I mean, it's just a question of treating them like human beings and not being a diva. When you work with chefs especially, because, you know, they're running their kitchen, they have their process, I can't be the one with the ego. I have to let them be in control. And so I think there's a lot of times where photographers will try to think too highly of themselves and push back against the people that they're working with, that they're photographing. I just want to have a good time. I want to walk away and be friends with that person for life. So the key is to have a good time, sense of humor, maybe drop a couple of F-bombs so that they know that you're like a real person. You know what I mean? Like, keep it light. That's what I try to do.
You know, I think the real key is what I like to call the white glove customer service experience, where I will go to the ends of the earth for my valued clients. And when I say valued clients, that's not to imply there's like another category of client that is not valued. You know, we definitely try to approach every single individual, be that you know, a mom that wants a family portrait shoot on their beach, to you know, the Talbot Hotel in Chicago. Those are two very different clients. Those are two very different sets of wants and needs, and we try to approach every single opportunity as a chance to show them why we're the best choice for them. So it's not a matter of do you want what Jordana Wright Photography has to offer you. It is a matter of what can Jordana Wright Photography create for you that is exactly what you need. And that customization and that boutique method of trying to transact business is really important to the level of clients that we're trying to retain.
Wow. So when it comes to technology and using social media, how important is that for the success of your freelance business? Have you found like you're finding a lot of clients online, on Twitter, on Facebook?
It's hugely important. A lot of people are surprised to hear this, but most of our most exciting business has come through Google+. So I speak to some people who are like, oh, Google+, that's not really even a thing. What about Facebook? Well, the truth of it is, Google Plus has such a high level of engagement with the people that you do connect with that we've walked away with. That's how I got my first shoot in the British Virgin Islands. That's how I got invited to wine and food festivals as the lead photographer. That's how I was offered 2 different TED Talks that I spoke at last year. I mean, just people, there's so much opportunity to put your personality into it. It's not just like 160 characters or whatever it is, and they have to try to decide whether or not they want to spend their time on you. So through Google Plus, we've really just been able to engage so greatly.
It's been pretty astonishing to see how marketing has worked as the abilities of Google Plus specifically have expanded. You could make the argument that what we're doing right now with Freelancers Union is very much a positive marketing experience, and that we've got a lot of different people who we might otherwise never have met who now are aware of our company, our brand, and as importantly, our personalities and sort of what we're about. And that depth of engagement with 100 people, to me at least, is infinitely more valuable than any sort of hundreds of thousands of followers, but with a few people giving me likes, for example, on Facebook. Then you add into it the entire other end of things, which is that your posts on Google Plus optimize for your search engine results and all the rest of that business. But dialing that out completely, the level of human interaction and the friendships that we have formed because of the depth that we've engaged with Google Plus has really been a driving force in the business. And as Jordana said, that's the bulk of our interesting stuff that we do.
Well, are you connecting with a lot of other photographers as well?
Yeah. I think that photography is one of those industries where it can be competitive, but for the most part, all the photographers I meet, I consider friends because we all have the same interests and we can learn a lot from each other. So through Google Plus, I actually organized a 45-day trip 2 years ago where I traveled through the Western United States by myself, and I met all of these photographers, and we went out photo walking together and went on little excursions. And some of those people are going to be my friends for the rest of my life, and I never would have crossed paths with them except for Google Plus.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. With all of the technology at our disposal, like, is it easier for people to work for themselves, you think, now that like there's Google Plus and there's Twitter? Do you think it's possible to make it work for them financially?
Yeah, I think that you know, we're seeing a real proliferation now of different types of media artists. The ones, you know, that we keep track on most diligently, of course, being photographers, and to a lesser extent, but still very much so, video artists. But you're starting to see the ability to effectively market yourself to the wide audience become, rather than a few key people that have mastered the science or the art of social media, that's kind of everybody now. And you've got your average 15-year-old who is social media savvy to the point that they can create their own brand if they really concentrate and put their effort into it. So the ability to reach that larger audience is happening more easily and at a younger age, which gives people a longer period of time to pull off something like Justin Bieber did, who, let's remember, started on YouTube. This kid was not an international pop star because he was talented. He was not an international pop star because everybody knew who he was. He was some white kid in Canada until YouTube. So the ability to record yourself and have 900 million 15-year-old girls think you're cute and rocket you to superstardom, that might not happen for everybody, but having 50 or 60,000 followers each on Google Plus can turn into a pretty comfortable way to make a living, and most importantly, it's a living that we enjoy and that we want to get up and go do every day. And that is entirely because of the ability for us to market ourselves and be mobile in our careers with social media.
Yeah, I think it's doable because of the connectivity that we have in this era. You're not relying so much on getting like a publishing contract with a magazine, because those things are still very unattainable for a lot of people. But you can create these projects for yourself and these adventures and get a lot of interest in them as long as people like what they see. And I think that that's an opportunity for freelancers that's never existed before.
That's incredible. So we're talking a lot about tools. So if you're a rookie photographer, what tools and online resources would you suggest you start off with?
Tools in terms of what, like software or physical?
Yeah, let's say with software and just like your first camera. What was your first camera when you started off?
My first camera was a film SLR. It was a Canon Rebel 2000, and I got it for a family trip to Europe. And I remember it was my 16th birthday present, and I asked for it 3 months early so I could learn how to use it. And my parents thought that was like a really good idea. So they got it for me, got a couple of lenses, and then I think I took 24 rolls of film in Europe, which my dad was so sad about because that was really expensive to develop. I think I got doubles too, which I probably didn't need. So I started on that route, and then once the digital thing happened, I decided to stick with Canon because I already had so many lenses that it was compatible that way. So my first digital SLR was a Canon 20D, and then I bumped up to a 40D, and now I work with 60Ds. And I do hear a lot of people say, like, well, what do you think is a good enough camera? What can I do? It's not the camera, it's the person using the camera. You could probably get as much out of a point and shoot if you're a fantastic photographer with vision as some idiot with a Hasselblad is going to get. It's not the gear, it's the person. So I try to be really encouraging with people to just, you know, work on the skills and then let the fun toys follow.
Oh, that's great. So what skills would you say that you need to start off with?
You need to experiment. With digital, there's no reason to not just like completely overshoot everything. You can take so many pictures and it's not going to cost you money. It's a learning lesson. My father actually is kind of an aspiring photographer now, and I always tell him, you know, just take tons of pictures and then look at them later and say, oh, for this one, the aperture was different and it made this adjustment. Or for this one, I used this shutter speed and I can see the little variations that happen. So it's all about experimenting and just learning from experience. I have taken a total of 2 photography classes in my life, one in high school and one in college, and they were both about film and film developing. And everything else is stuff that I have figured out because I enjoy it and I pay attention to it and I read articles and I check out work by photographers that I admire, and I try to pull different elements of that out to sort of create what my body of work is going to be.
I think that's a really good point. As far as tools, I think that anything you can use to consume the media that you want to be excellent within is really important. I know that one of the things that we're doing right now is we direct our business more towards culinary and hospitality photography, is that I've been reading an extensive amount of cookbooks. And not like the Betty Crocker 4-ingredient cookbook, but like high-end, masterfully, beautifully photographed cookbooks. I'm a big fan of the Williams-Sonoma ones. The imagery that we enjoy shooting and the types of foods that we enjoy shooting, they have a large body of excellent work within. So we can get ideas. We can figure out what we like. Equally as important, we can figure out what we don't like. Maybe there are certain types of foods or certain locations or environments that we've never photographed before, and we're about to go into one of those scenarios, and we can research sort of what other people have done in those scenarios and make ourselves more familiar with the subject matter. It's like you would study for any test or any other opportunity that you were going to have that you needed to perform at ultimately high level with, and the best tool is whatever you can use personally to go and get more of that media and expose yourself to absolutely as much of it and as diverse of quantity of it as possible.
Those are great ideas. When it comes to building your portfolio, I know you started off with your camera and you were traveling. I can't believe you've only taken 2 classes, but when did you start to build your own portfolio? Was it in college as well, or was that much later?
It was just kind of in that time immediately after college when I decided I wanted to do this as a career, and then I was like, well, crap, I don't have any pictures to show anyone. So then it became a take your camera with you absolutely everywhere you go, and because you find amazing pictures in the most bizarre little moments that you wouldn't expect. So I'm a big fan of keeping that camera on me at all times, just in case. And then, you know, gradually you start to realize, okay, I have a lot of pictures of the birds that happen to live in this area. That's not going to sell. I got to go someplace else and get those birds too, you know. And then you realize, well, nobody wants pictures of birds, so maybe I better get some sunsets. So it's just a question of seeing what you have and trying to round it out a little bit. I like to do a lot of night photography. I like to do a lot of sunrises. You just have to be awake at the times that you might possibly get something amazing. Do you have anything to add to that?
I think that, you know, as far as developing your body of work, especially when you're first beginning and you're sort of taking, for lack of better words, the shotgun approach to what sort of business that you take, any that pays you, what type of photography, any that pays you, and because you have all of that, you will discover that you'll begin to develop this, although concentrated in certain areas, vast and very diverse portfolio, and you want to take the absolute best. A pretty good shot isn't what people want to buy, and you can always show them another depth of your portfolio down the road. But I think that it's really important to keep track of what you're putting out as your best work, because ideally that's always going to change. You may find that there's a shot that you took 10 years ago that you still think is one of the 5 best photographs you've ever created in your entire life. And you may find that you don't talk about the photographs from 10 years ago and that you're still happiest with some stuff that you did more recently. But you've got to check. And it's really important to keep track, because as your business grows and people's expectations of you as a business person grow, your portfolio should reflect that as your ability reflects that.
Oh, that's great advice. So when it comes to your portfolio and then it's like setting your prices and negotiating, how did you start setting that up? Are there any ideas or tips you want to share about negotiating?
Negotiating, I try not to do. My feeling is I cost what I cost. If you're cool with that, then we got no problem. If somebody comes to me and they say, do you have anything cheaper? Specifically in the wedding industry, this is a question I've gotten. Do you have any packages that are cheaper? And I'm happy to say I can give you a package that's less expensive, but I don't have anything cheaper, because cheaper and less expensive are not the same thing. Cheaper to me is poor quality. Less expensive is just, okay, maybe the frills are going to get cut down a little bit. But it's an important distinction that you have to make, that you cost a certain amount and your time is not worth less than that. You can look on Craigslist for people looking for photographers and just get completely insulted, because these people are like, oh, well, you can take our picture and use it for your portfolio. That's a fair trade, right? No, because I can't eat my portfolio. So let's try and keep this where I'm actually surviving. And my feeling is that, you know, if a freelancer has to go get a job at Starbucks once for 2 months because they just need to make ends meet, that's cool, because you didn't compromise yourself as an artist, you know? So I try to keep an open mind about things. Something that may not make as much money as I want it to, if it's going to make the connections that I need, it's absolutely worth it. Sometimes you eat ramen noodles because you did a project that was important enough to you that it was worth it.
Yeah, I think that, you know, at first you wanna try to do a fair job and base that on your expertise. You know, as your skill level increases, as you become more familiar with shooting different scenarios, for example, weddings, you know, which is a great example, because it really runs the extremes as far as the photography industry is concerned. There are guys that are going to charge you upwards of $10,000 to come shoot your wedding, and there are people that are going to come do it to build their portfolio that are college students, and they're going to come do it for free, or they're going to be thrilled with making $100. I very much agree with the idea that you should not do it below your certain valued amount, and you need to figure out how much it's going to cost you to actually go and take part in the event. For example, if you're going to need an overnight at a hotel, it's going to cost you a couple $100. If your gas is going to be however much, if you're renting a car, if you're flying, all these different things that factor into it. And then to add to that, you need to consider not only the 10 or 12-hour day you're going to have on location at the wedding, but the dozens of hours you're going to have subsequently editing those photographs and then providing them to the client. You need to consider little things like, how much does your internet cost every month, because you have business class internet, so you can upload these giant piles of gigabytes of photos to your website so that people can download them or order them. All of that stuff adds up. So when you find somebody that wants to give you the ability for you to use your photographs in your portfolio, that is not an opportunity. It is, if anything, it is a detriment, because it's very difficult to explain to people why they should pay you when they know that you've already gone and done it for free or for next to free. So you got to value yourself where you should be. It's very, very important. And even if you're way too high, you'll figure that out, and you can start to adjust it down the road. But it's always better to be too high and to lose one than to get 25 of them that aren't paying you enough, because you can't keep up with the work and you'll starve.
And one thing that I've figured out gradually is that once you figure out your rates, you don't necessarily want to put them on your website, because if somebody's searching for a photographer or any other kind of freelance situation, they might see those prices and just say, oh, well, that's too cheap, they must not be good, or that's too expensive, I don't want them. And it's better for them to have to contact you and say, what are your rates? And then at least you're opening up a discussion. And that way you have the opportunity to explain to them why they should go for it, kind of regardless of what pricing structure you're in, and that you're willing to work with them.
Well, we hear a lot of freelancers who have issues getting paid. How do you ensure that you don't face any of those issues when you're working on projects? How do you guys eliminate that from the get-go?
You need to have a good contract. That's the first thing. So many contracts are just the wording is too weak. I always require 50% as a deposit, so that at least I have the upfront money to cover my expenses on the shoot. And then I just try to keep conversations open, and usually what we do is we collect the remaining balance when we deliver the photographs. So if it's like a hotel shoot, 50% deposit up front, and then I'm coming to you with the disc of images and you are giving me a check. And that way there's no confusion, and if I need to, I can leave with those pictures. For a wedding, typically it's 25% to reserve your wedding date, and then the balance is due 60 days before the wedding. Just because no bride wants to hand you that much money on her wedding day. She doesn't want to think about that stuff. So it's just easier, and everything is more settled if you are paid in full beforehand. I'm sure that has fallen through for some people, and I'm sure it can also be frightening if you don't necessarily trust your photographer, but that's why we hire people we like.
That's right.
You guys both bring your skills to the business, and it's unique because you guys are married. Do you think this would be possible for an independent photographer to have a similar partnership if there wasn't a romantic connection?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that it's just a question of respect and of liking the person that you work with, and being willing to look at yourself and say, okay, I was flawed in that scenario and they were right. You have to have a level of humility. Any partnership is going to require that, regardless of romantic entanglement. If anything, I could see a business relationship between husband and wife being more complicated, because there are just those people that bicker, and you can't bicker professionally. So, I mean, I think we're very lucky because we've maybe had 3 fights in 10 years, but I think some people, just because they love each other doesn't mean they should work together, and just because you work together doesn't mean you should love each other. So.
Yeah, like Jordana said, the whole thing is predicated on the highest level of respect. It's important, again, as she said, to have that level of self-reflection. You need to be able to understand what you're really good at. You need to be able to know what you're not as good at, and what your comfort zone is, and being able to immediately defer to the other individual's expertise. And I don't know that that's something that is, a prerequisite for marriage, but it certainly is for a partnership. So I think that the fact that we're married, that just helps, because obviously I have a higher depth of understanding of my partner in this circumstance. But I think that as long as you find a way to reconcile the things that are alike and the things that are different between the two partners, that anybody can go do it. It's just very, very important that you do get along. A lot of people think we're going to make $1 million, and I really don't like that guy, but we're going to make $1 million. Run and hide. You should never do it. You want to really enjoy the person and like to spend time with them, because there are going to be days where you're locked in that room editing photographs, and if you don't get along, that's an uncomfortable place to be for 18 hours.
And more so than even getting along or respecting, you have to trust each other. Trust is a huge thing. I mean, we don't have any kind of thing on paper where he owns 50% of his company, but he knows I'm never going to screw him over because he trusts me. You know what I mean? I think it really cuts down on the level of concern and stress that you're going to have if there's that level of trust there.
I would say that if you're going to go the partnership without the marriage route, that you probably want some kind of legally binding document that says that it is 50% your business or whatever has been previously arranged. But, you know, we passed on that one.
Yeah, it was cool.
Well, I would love to hear your thoughts on after work hours. How do you guys strike a balance between family time and work?
I have a real problem separating myself from the computer at the end of the day. There are often times where I'm sitting here editing and Cash is like, you know, it's 10 o'clock. Maybe you should just come sit on the couch for a bit. So it's a kind of checks and balances thing where we keep each other sort of motivated to work, and we also keep each other motivated to walk away from work when it's necessary. But at the same time, it's as much a part of our lives to run this business as it is to do the grocery shopping and walk the dog. So I don't really get too concerned if we spend a lot of our free time on it. We're not big TV watchers, so it's not like we're cutting into our shows or anything, you know. So.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we're definitely you know, work hard, play hard types.
Yeah.
We certainly you know, doing the freelance bit, we run into deadlines, and they are what they are. And sometimes you work for 36 out of 48 hours, and you hit the deadline because all of a sudden it landed on you, and it's go time. And it is really important to have that self motivation and to be you know, to be capable of kind of putting everything off to the side and working when you need to do that. But at the same time, it's important to reward one's successes and one's accomplishments, because you can't go forever like that. And because you will ultimately have that land on you, and there will be those demands at some point, it's important to take the opportunity to have a blast while you can. And that's why we may have plans to go do something in some far-flung place on planet, and we'll add a couple of days before or after whatever we're doing, specifically so that we can unwind and enjoy this cool place that we just got brought to. So as much as we focus on our work and on our schedule, part of that schedule is ensuring that we have some time and some fun time. You know, as much as it's a job, but more so it's a lifestyle choice. And that's because of the freelance thing. When you become a freelancer, you consciously decide that the 9 to 5 thing probably isn't going to be your deal, and there are ups that come with that, and there are certainly downs that come with that as far as the workload. But it's just really important that you consider part of your job to plan that decompression time into it, because that's how you're going to perform at your highest, which after all is why we're here.
I try to maintain 1 day a week where it's like we're not doing anything involved with the business. Even if that day is getting laundry and other household stuff done, you're stepping away, and it gives you the opportunity to clear your head and maybe think about things a little bit differently. And then when you come back and look at your work again, you're like fresh and ready to address it. So I think 1 day a week is a good amount to have off.
Oh, that's a great idea. That's great advice. Since it's only 2 of you guys, when projects get too big, do you guys subcontract? Are there any places you guys go to look for team members?
We do have friends that we trust to bring in on things. Occasionally I'll have a shoot that he's not available for, and I do have some photographers that I like to work with that I'll bring along as my assistant. Those people are all sourced through Google Plus, again, because you can see such a body of work, and you can know that their personality is going to jive with yours because of the opportunities of Google Hangouts and chats, and there's just so many ways that you can make sure that you're vetting a person before you go and get stuck with them on an island for 10 days. So I've had a lot of success with social media doing that. That was how I found everybody that I visited on that 45-day cross-country trip. And, I mean, it's just amazing the kind of people that are available to you if you look.
With the tools that you're using, are there any apps or photography programs you guys use to streamline your lives?
Yes. I mean, like everybody else, we use Adobe stuff. So I haven't used Lightroom, but I do use Photoshop, and I use Bridge. Bridge is kind of an organizational tool. I also like to have the ability to see basically a digital contact sheet of all of my photos in front of me, and Bridge does that really nicely. Recently, we switched to having a Chromebook as our travel computer, which presented a lot of challenges because Chromebooks don't necessarily support all the same photography stuff that we had been doing. So you have to jump through some hoops and adapt how you are doing your on-the-road workflow. But I've really enjoyed it. There's a lot of really good apps on there where you can convert raw footage or raw photos into JPEGs and then edit them. And I've been getting good responses to the images that I was playing with that way. As far as phone photography, because I do believe that the best camera is the camera that you have with you, so sometimes that's your phone. I love Snapseed. It's a fantastic app that allows you to really do a lot of editing, and it has an integrated camera. I also love Google's own camera tool because you can do photospheres and panoramas and all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's just a question of like experimenting with new stuff. I do not pay for apps. I don't think you should have to pay for apps. I'm happy clicking on an ad every once in a while because I want to use an app, decide if I like it or not, and uninstall it. I don't want to have wasted the $5 on it. And I think that little decisions like that can make or break you in the freelance world because there's only so much money. And if you're spending it on little things everywhere, it's going to go away.
It seems like travel is also really important to you guys. How do you guys manage to travel as much as you do with your freelance business? I know sometimes you get clients, but are there times where you're just traveling for leisure to take photos or on assignment?
Usually we'll decide that we want to go somewhere. If it's not something where it's been presented to us as an option, we'll decide, okay, we want to go back east and visit my family. So then we'll decide what our driving route is going to be, and then we'll start soliciting various companies or friends that we know who might want family portraits or things like that, so that you're basically offsetting the cost of everything and you're able to make a little profit on it. So there will be times where we do a 10-day trip, and of those 10 days, we've had 8 photo shoots. And then I come home, and I'm just like swamped at the computer for a month and a half, but I got to get that trip, and I didn't have to pay for it. So that's kind of what we worked towards.
Yeah, you know, if you want to maintain an active traveling lifestyle, then it's important that you build that right into your work. That's somewhat how I decide who I want to solicit in various cities around the world. And to be clear, a lot of people reach out to us and we book business that way. A lot of times I reach out to other people, and part of how I determine who I'll be reaching out to is, for example, I want to go to Hong Kong. So I've been looking up restaurants in Hong Kong. And I'm kind of going through my list right now of the 10 or 12 of the short list of restaurants that we want to photograph and work with in Hong Kong. And then I'll start bothering all those guys here in a couple of weeks and sending them some cover letters and some things like that. And the vast majority of them aren't going to even respond, but there will be a couple that do, and of those, hopefully I'll be able to work, figuring out a little vacation over there. It's important to us that our vacations are working vacations because it presents a completely different side of the location that you're traveling to, because you're going there to see some of the locals and to interact with them. And it also gives you, like Jordana said, a great opportunity to offset the cost of that trip, or at the very least, write it off as a business expense. Really important.
Yeah, that's the other thing that I think people really need to pay attention to is the tax game completely changes when you're a freelancer in the U.S. I mean, the self-employment tax, quarterly estimated taxes, it's a huge pain in the butt. It screwed me over the first year I did it. And so you have to really be careful and make sure that you know what you're doing and that you can make good choices that you can then write off, so that way you're not giving every dollar that you earn to the government. So it's just a question of like finding the right balance and maybe finding a tax attorney or a accountant that you like that'll kind of give you the good advice.
So could you walk us through, when you guys first get a project, how do you prepare for it and how does Cassius prepare for it?
It depends on the situation. I am very much a candid photographer. I like to photograph things that are actually happening. I don't enjoy staging stuff. So I just kind of walk in with the camera and all of my batteries are charged and all of my memory cards are clear and I have an open mind and I see what's there and I take the pictures. He is Mr. Did you print your paperwork? Did you pack everything? Did you remember to walk the dogs? We're leaving in 5 minutes. He treats it like a stage manager. Even with this, he'll walk around and he'll be like, 30 minutes till we leave. 30 minutes. And I'll be like, okay, thank you. 30 minutes. Cool, you know. And so he just kind of keeps me a little more on task, which is good.
That's the world I come from. I come from the world of production management and from, you know, logistics, and you got to make sure that, you know, everything that's supposed to be on the truck is on the truck, because when the truck leaves, you might not be able to get what you didn't put on the truck like you were supposed to. So coming from the touring world and things like that, it's very much a kind of the next progression for me to be able to sort of, I guess, manage the timeline of a lot of the shoots and things like that. I also I do a lot of the location scouting. I do extensive amounts of research online before we go to certain locations. If it's for a wedding, I want to know everything there is to know about the room. If we're close, I might drive out and go see it so I can see what the lighting's like, or I can see, you know, what sort of supplemental lighting we might need if there are some particular areas that we need to shoot from a different angle because maybe it's under construction or something, or if there's something that's really fantastic and we want to make sure we showcase it a certain way. All of that prep is essential to providing the level of imagery and the level of customer service that we attach our names to. So I take it very seriously. You know, if I'd have done this level of preparation and homework, you know, in school, I could be you know, a rocket scientist. But you know, at the very least, I'm doing it now.
I do think it's a lot about doing your homework ahead of time. If it's a wedding, in my contract, I have built into the informational section where I say, is there anything I need to know about your family? Like, does this person hate that person and I shouldn't put them near each other? So it's little things like that that you can do ahead of time so that you're not going to have those awkward situations. If I am photographing in a hotel that's in a casino, I will say, does the general manager know that I'm doing this? Because casinos don't like cameras. And you just want to make sure that, like, you're dotting all your I's and crossing all your T's to avoid the headaches when you should just actively be shooting, and that's it.
As much work as you can do in advance, do in advance. There's nothing that you want to be going on when you're actively trying to create art, which people that are in the freelance industry, you know, you don't want to do it for somebody else. You're doing it because you love it, and you're doing it for yourself. And that's what that is what you're a freelancer for, is that moment when you're out there creating that photograph. So to hell with dealing with contract issues and everything else that comes along with that, or dealing with the resort, or dealing with any kind of logistics. If you can get that out of the way, then definitely do so.
Well, how do you guys focus when you're lacking motivation or you can't get into the zone? Jordana, what do you do to kind of recharge?
To recharge, I think, well, a big part of it is knowing when to walk away. If it's not happening, it's not happening, and the work is going to suffer if I'm forcing myself to sit at the computer when I'm not feeling creative. So it's knowing when not to be doing it. I happen to really enjoy working late at night. I just like being the only one awake and sitting at the computer, and sometimes I'll look and it's 3 a.m. and he's been in bed since 11, and I've gotten so much done in that time because I'm in the zone. So when you're in the zone, stick with it. I believe in coffee while you work. I believe in wine while you work. I think that you know, whatever makes it feel like it's motivating you, then that's cool. Everybody's got a different thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that finding what works best for you as an individual, or in our case as a team, which is still on an individual level, we just happen to make a team with those individual preferences. You know, you'll hear a lot that there's however many tips people have to doing it this way and achieving success, or you have whatever rules that you're not supposed to break to achieve that level of success. And there are terrific examples in all levels of artistry where people don't pay any attention to those rules and they're remarkably successful. So if there is a rule, I think that it's you have to do what works for you. And that once you find that, and you should experiment to find what's best for you, but once you find that, stick with it and develop within it as much as you can.
I see a lot of people post things on Facebook that are like the top 10 things that successful people do in their day. And I think that maybe those successful people do it in their day, but everybody's going to have their own thing that they find that works. We're also going to have our own things that we find that don't work, that we still kind of want to do anyway. So it's just a question of that self-control and knowing that maybe you shouldn't drink the whole bottle of wine if you have to design a wedding album. Leave it at a glass or two. You know what I mean? So, just sort of trial and error, figuring it out.
Do you guys have any freelance horror stories that you like to share? Anything crazy happened in a shoot in Barbados or at a wedding?
A shoot in Cape Cod.
Shoot in Cape Cod. So this kind of goes back also to earlier on you were saying like how did we start developing clients? Well, when I was brand new at photography, we paid the kind of expensive fee to set up a table at an art fair, and it was basically the entire marketing budget for a long time. And so we wanted to get maximum value out of it. So I had a family portrait contest, and they had to fill out their contact information. We got, I think, maybe 15 or 20 families that entered, and everybody won. So I had all those people that had their free family portrait sessions, and then they all ended up buying pictures because they were happy with it, except for one family, which we referred to the child as the pisser, because she, it was on the beach. It was a family beach portrait session. I thought you were fist bumping me.
No.
Yeah, thumbs down. So it was a family beach portrait session. Everybody was wearing white, as the Cape Codders like to do on the beach. And this is like a little, maybe 3-year-old, and she's standing in ankle-deep water, and she just starts peeing. And it was like she's wearing this white dress, and she's just peeing. And there were super indulgent parents, and they were just like, oh, look, she's peeing. And I was like, really? Is this really happening right now? Like, you're amused by the fact that your child is peeing. Then the grandmother picks her up and puts her on her hip with her white dress on, so then it's not white forever. And it was just, I mean, it was so bad. And then the family ended up being unhappy. Like, I could somehow control the fact that their child was urinating in the ocean. So, from that, we learned that you need to have a clause in your contract that says the photographer is not responsible for the people having their pictures taken not cooperating, not listening, screaming, yelling, crying, peeing, which, you know, we didn't write that in there, but it's implied. And so, you know, you learn from every experience. I also had a woman that she had a fussy child, and I was trying to take the child's picture, so she whipped out a boob and started breastfeeding right in front of the camera. The kid was old enough to stand and breastfeed, so, you know.
He was like 5.
You see weird stuff. I think in the photography industry, you see some weird stuff, and you just got to roll with it and recover as best you can.
That is pretty funny. That's a really good horror story. We're almost done with our Google Hangout. Do you guys have any other tips or advice you'd like to share, or just tell us more about what's happening in Chicago these days?
Well, Chicago is finally coming out of the permafrost, so we're trying to get outside a little bit more, which is nice, get some vitamin D going. We've been working on just accessing more restaurants and more hotels in the area. We're starting to get back into photo walk season, so I'm going to be organizing a lot of photo walks for this summer just for photographers to get together and hang out and have something to do. That kind of thing, the creating a community for yourself with the other people in your area that do what you do, that is so valuable. And, excuse me, it's not going to make you money, and it doesn't need to make you money. It just needs to make you friends and connections. And the people in this city that I photo walk with are dear friends at this point, and it's just something you can do to like spend a little bit of time and really make an impact on people.
If someone wants to start to create a photo walk, do they do it on Google Plus, or how did you go about doing that?
Ours were through Google Plus, originally Google Buzz back in the day before Google Plus even happened. So what I'll do is I'll just set up an event page for it, and I'll say, you know, photo walk in this area on this day at this time, and then I'll just invite everybody that I know is a Chicago photographer, and I leave it open where they can invite people. And I do try to solicit prizes from local retailers or photography-based companies, that these people have an incentive to really want to be there. It's not just like, it gives it a little bit more polish, like it's more of an event and less of a casual hangout. So I try to organize as many of those kinds of things as I can. Sometimes we do scavenger hunts where there's like a prize and everybody's trying to get certain pictures to match the list of the scavenger hunt. It's just, I mean, it's about having fun.
I'm sorry to cut you off, Cassius. Were you going to say something earlier?
No, just actually I was going to talk a little bit about the photo walks that we do. You know, as Jordana said, the community surrounding the Chicagoland area for photographers is fantastic. You know, for this particular audience's purpose, obviously we're all doing something with Google as we're here on a Hangout right now, so I would certainly encourage you to look around your local community, and if there's not an opportunity for a photo walk, go and create one. It's something that people really enjoy at the end of a photo walk, and something that we try to do, not every time, but on larger scale photo walks, as we try to partner with a local restaurant that happens to be on the route that we'll be walking, and we try to end at a restaurant so we can, you know, have refreshments afterwards. Everybody's got a bathroom that they can use if they need. You know, we learned fairly early on that not everybody does photo walks like we do photo walks. We do photo walks like 10 miles sometimes, and we discovered very quickly that that might not be the most popular thing for everybody. So we try to keep them a more manageable length at this point, rather than making it a really big all-day affair where we hit a lot of different things and spend a lot of time there. We try now to make it more of a survey of a specific couple of block area where we know that we've got a couple of public restrooms, where we know that we've got a great restaurant that we can go to. And just thinking out those logistical things for people. People really appreciate having something to go do that's in their set of interests, and that somebody's taken the time and the effort to kind of put together for them, so they don't have to go through those hoops themselves. And lets you try out new gear that you might not otherwise encounter. It lets you meet new people, and that's how you make those connections and find those new opportunities.
Well, can you tell our members where they can find you on Facebook, on Twitter, on Google+, your website?
Yeah, so my main website is just jordanawright.com, so JORDANAWRIGHT.com. I'm also on Google Plus as Jordana Wright. You can search for me. I'm on Facebook as Jordana Wright. I have a Facebook page for Jordana Wright Photography, but I hate Facebook most of the time, so I don't use it very much. I'm on Instagram as Jordana Wright. I mean, it's mostly just Jordana Wright. I think there's me and one girl in Canada, so you should be able to tell which one's me and find me that way.
And yeah, the same goes for me. I'm available at CassiusWright.com, but basically everything that I do is in promotion of most of her endeavors. So those are fairly interchangeable as far as the website is concerned. I'm also available as Cassius Wright on everything from Instagram to LinkedIn to Flipboard. What else? Google Plus. I think that's it. I'm not on Twitter. They don't want to give me my name on Twitter, so I'm not going to be on it until they do. Well, it would be everything except for that one thing. It'd be strange. But otherwise, just look us up on Google Plus, and we're happy to answer any questions, and we're happy to do whatever we can to help get some visibility for some people.
Yeah.
So, you know, please reach out and engage.
Yeah, I have an attitude that, you know, a lot of people helped me, so I want to help a lot of people. So anyone that has questions about starting a company, I'm always happy to answer. I'm not perfect at everything, but I'll give you my best ideas.
Thank you. You guys are really awesome. We appreciate you talking to us today. And everyone, go check out Jordana Wright. She's amazing.
Thanks so much for having us. It's been a great time.
Thank you, guys.